What if I told you that your 9.9 horsepower Mercury was never really a 9.9? That somewhere inside that engine, hidden beneath the cowling, there's a secret. A small piece of metal, a restrictor. Put there on purpose. Remove it, and you unlock 50% more power. No new parts, no dealer, no $1,000 upgrade. Sounds too good to be true, right? Here's the thing. Mercury knows about it. They designed it this way. And they've been selling you the same engine twice at two different prices for decades. But before you grab your toolbox, you need to know something. This upgrade comes with a cost. One that most YouTube videos won't tell you about. Warranties, insurance, and in some places, the law. So here's my question for you. If you could add more power to your boat for almost nothing, but risk losing everything if something goes wrong, would you do it? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Yes or no? I want to know where you stand before we go any further. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and tap that bell icon, because what I'm about to show you could save you hundreds of dollars, or save you from the biggest mistake of your boating life. This is the truth about the 9.9 to 15 conversion. Let's get into it. To understand what we're really talking about, you have to start with a simple fact that changes everything. The Mercury 9.9 horsepower outboard and the Mercury 15 horsepower outboard are, in many cases, the same engine. Not similar, not related, the same engine block, same displacement. 323 cubic centimeters on the popular 4-stroke EFI models. Same pistons, same crankshaft, same lower unit. If you lined them up side by side with the cowlings removed, even an experienced mechanic would struggle to tell them apart without checking the serial number. So what's the difference? Where does the power gap come from? The answer is restriction, intentional, engineered restriction. On the 9.9, Mercury installs components designed to limit performance. Sometimes it's a smaller jet in the carburetor, starving the engine of fuel. Sometimes it's a throttle body restrictor, choking the airflow before it reaches the cylinders. Newer electronic fuel injection models, the difference might live entirely in software. A rev limiter programmed into the engine control unit, capping the RPMs well below what the hardware can handle. One veteran marine mechanic put it this way: "I've been turning 9.9s into 15s for 20 years. Mercury knows, Yamaha knows, they design it that way." He's not exaggerating. This isn't a hack or a workaround. It's the product architecture itself. But why? Why would one of the world's largest marine manufacturers deliberately sell a restricted version of its own engine? The answer lies not in engineering, but in regulation. Across North America, Europe, and Australia, a patchwork of laws creates invisible boundaries around that 10 horsepower threshold. In Canada, many provinces allow unlicensed boaters to operate motors under 10 horsepower. If your engine is rated at 9.9, you qualify. At 15, you don't. You need a pleasure craft operator card. In NII. Parts of Europe, insurance premiums jump significantly once you cross that line. In Australia, registration requirements shift. And in the United States, hundreds of lakes and waterways enforce horsepower limits for environmental protection or safety reasons. Under 10 horsepower, you're welcome. Above it, you're banned. This created a problem for boat owners and an opportunity for manufacturers. Buyers needed an engine that checked the legal box, 9.9 on paper. But they wanted real performance, enough thrust to plane a small aluminum boat, enough torque to push against current or wind, enough reliability to feel confident miles from the launch ramp. Mercury didn't create the loophole, but they built an entire product strategy around it. By engineering a single powerhead that could be sold at two different ratings, they captured both markets: the compliance buyer who needed to stay under 10, and the performance buyer who wanted every horse available. Same tooling, same inventory, same assembly line, two price tags. And here's where it gets interesting. The retail price difference between the 9.9 and the 15 horsepower version is often somewhere between $300 and $600, depending on the model year and configuration. $600 for what? A different carburetor jet that costs $8 wholesale? A software flash that takes a dealer 10 minutes? A restrictor plate stamped from a few cents worth of aluminum? The markup isn't for parts, it's for permission. When you buy the 15, you're not paying for more engine. You're paying for Mercury's blessing to use what the engine already has. For decades, this quiet arrangement worked. Buyers got compliance, dealers got sales. Mercury got to sell the same machine twice. Everyone seemed satisfied, but as information spread, through forums, through YouTube, through mechanics willing to talk, a new question began circulating in marinas and garages across the continent. What if you could skip the permission entirely? Before we go any further, there's something you need to understand. Not every Mercury 9.9 is the same, and not every upgrade path leads to the same destination. The first rule of this process is identification. You have to know exactly what you're working with before you touch a single bolt. Mercury has produced 9.9 horsepower outboards for decades, across multiple generations and configurations. There are carbureted models and electronic fuel injection models, 2 strokes and 4 strokes, different displacement blocks built for different eras. The upgrade that works flawlessly on a 2018 4-stroke EFI might be completely wrong for a 2008 carbureted 2-stroke. Your engine serial number is the key. You'll find it stamped on a plate mounted to the transom bracket or engraved directly into the power head. That number tells you the model year, the configuration, and most importantly, which parts Mercury used during assembly. Cross-reference that serial number against Mercury's official parts diagrams, available through their Marine Parts Lookup tool, and you'll begin to see exactly where the restrictions live. This step is not optional. Skipping it doesn't save time. It creates risk, because a mistake here doesn't just void your warranty, it could damage your engine permanently. Once you've identified your specific model, the physical upgrade process becomes surprisingly straightforward. On many carbureted 9.9s, the restriction lies in the fuel delivery system. The main jet, a small brass fitting inside the carburetor, is sized to limit the fuel-air mixture. Replacing it with the jet from a 15 horsepower carburetor allows more fuel to flow, releasing power the engine was always capable of producing. Common jet sizes are well documented in marine forums, with part numbers that match Mercury's own catalog. On 4-stroke EFI models, the restriction often takes a different form. Many have a physical throttle body restrictor, a plate or insert that limits how much air can enter the intake. Removing it is sometimes as simple as unbolting the air intake silencer and extracting a small aluminum disc. Other models require recalibration of the engine control unit, either through a dealer-level diagnostic tool or an aftermarket tuning device. Some older engines also benefit from a timing adjustment. Advancing the ignition timing slightly can unlock additional responsiveness. But this introduces real risk. Push the timing too far, and you invite detonation, uncontrolled combustion that can destroy pistons, score cylinder walls, and turn a running engine into scrap metal. There's one more consideration that most people overlook: the propeller. Your 9.9 came with a prop pitched for its rated horsepower. At 15 horsepower, that same prop may allow the engine to over-rev, exceeding safe RPM limits, or it may load the engine too heavily, preventing it from reaching optimal speed. Most successful conversions include a prop change, typically moving from a 9-pitch to a 10 or 11-pitch propeller to match the new power output. Here's what makes this entire situation so strange. Mercury does not officially endorse this upgrade. They don't support it, they don't recommend it, and they will void your warranty the moment you perform it. Yet Mercury sells every single part you need to complete the conversion. The jets, the air intake assemblies, the ECU modules, all available through their own authorized parts network, with part numbers that correspond directly to the 15 horsepower configuration. One dealer, speaking off the record, described it this way: "We won't do the conversion ourselves. Officially, we can't. But we can't stop you from ordering the parts either." Mercury builds the 9.9 to be upgraded. They sell you the components to do it. And then they step back, letting you assume all responsibility for the result. For some owners, that trade-off feels fair. For others, it's the beginning of a much more complicated story. Now we arrive at the part of this story that most videos skip, the part that separates informed decisions from expensive regrets. Because yes, the upgrade works. Thousands of boat owners have completed it successfully. Forums are filled with testimonials from people who gained the thrust they wanted, the planing speed they needed, and the performance their boats were always missing. But the upgrade is not free, and the costs don't show up on a parts invoice. Let's start with warranty. The moment you modify your Mercury outboard in any way that deviates from factory specification, your warranty ends. Not just on the part you changed, on the entire powerhead, on related systems, on anything Mercury can connect to the modification. This isn't speculation, it's written into the warranty terms. Now consider a real scenario. You perform the upgrade in April. The engine runs beautifully all summer. Then in September, you notice a vibration in the lower unit. Something unrelated to the conversion. Maybe a bearing starting to fail, maybe a seal wearing out. You take it to the dealer expecting a warranty repair. The technician opens the cowling, sees the non-factory jet or the missing restrictor plate, and documents the modification. Your claim is denied, not because the modification caused the problem, but because the modification exists. That $15 jet just cost you a $2,000 repair. Extended warranties, the kind dealers love to sell, often include inspection clauses. Any sign of modification triggers rejection. The coverage you paid for becomes worthless the moment you deviate from stock. But warranty is only one dimension of risk. There's another that cuts even deeper. Insurance. If your boat registration specifies a 9.9 horsepower motor because you needed that rating to access a restricted lake, or to qualify for a lower insurance premium, or to operate without a license in your province, then running a modified 15 puts you in violation. Not technical violation, real violation. Imagine an accident, a collision with another boat, a passenger injury, a fuel spill requiring environmental cleanup. Your insurer sends an adjuster. The adjuster inspects the motor. The modification is discovered. Your claim is denied. And now you're personally liable for damages that could reach into the tens of thousands. In Canada, the consequences extend further. Operating above your licensing threshold without proper certification violates federal small vessel regulations. It's not a gray area. It's written into law. The upgrade doesn't just change your engine, it changes your legal exposure. And most owners never think about that until it's too late. Then there are the mechanical risks. The ones that live inside the engine itself. More power means more stress, more heat. More load on components that were rated for a lower output. When fuel delivery or timing is wrong, detonation becomes possible. The air-fuel mixture ignites at the wrong moment, creating pressure spikes that hammer the pistons and cylinder walls. The damage is cumulative. It doesn't announce itself with a single failure. It builds quietly until something breaks. Increased horsepower also means increased thermal load. The cooling system on your 9.9 was designed for 9.9 output. At 15 horsepower, it's working harder. On hot days, at sustained high RPMs, overheating becomes a real possibility. And don't forget the lower unit, the gear case, the prop shaft, the bearings, all rated for the original power output. 15 horsepower falls within acceptable tolerance for most Mercury designs. But long-term wear may accelerate. Components may fatigue faster than expected. A marine surveyor with 30 years of experience put it simply, "I've seen clean upgrades last 10 years. I've also seen engines grenade in one season." The difference is almost always in the details. The question isn't whether the upgrade can work. It can. The question is whether you're prepared to own what happens next. To truly understand what's happening here, you have to step back from the engine itself and look at the system that created it. Mercury Marine is not a small operation. They're one of the largest marine propulsion manufacturers on Earth, owned by Brunswick Corporation, a company with billions in annual revenue. They employ thousands of engineers, operate factories across multiple continents, and sell into virtually every boating market in the world. Companies like this don't make decisions by accident. Every product, every configuration, every price point is calculated. So why build one engine and sell it at 2 power ratings? The answer is efficiency. Designing and tooling an engine is extraordinarily expensive. The research, the prototyping, the testing, the manufacturing setup, all of it requires massive capital investment. If you can design a single powerhead that serves multiple markets, you reduce those costs dramatically. One block, one assembly line, one parts inventory. 2 products. The 9.9 captures the compliance market, buyers who need to stay under 10 horsepower for licensing, insurance, or waterway access. The 15 captures the performance market, buyers who want maximum output and don't face regulatory constraints. Mercury doesn't have to choose between these customers. They serve both simultaneously with the same hardware. This is called market segmentation, and it's not unique to marine engines. You see it in cars, in electronics, in software. Companies routinely sell restricted versions of their products at lower price points, then charge premiums for unlocked or enhanced versions. What makes the outboard situation unusual is how transparent the restriction has become. The information is no longer hidden. It lives in plain sight. And that brings us to the second force shaping this story: the DIY community. Over the past 15 years, the internet has transformed how boat owners share knowledge. Forums like iBoats, The Hull Truth, and dedicated Facebook groups have created vast archives of technical information. Part numbers, wiring diagrams, step-by-step conversion guides, dyno results comparing stock and modified engines. Knowledge that once existed only in the heads of experienced mechanics now spreads freely, accessible to anyone willing to search for it. YouTube accelerated this even further. Visual tutorials showing exactly where the restrictor sits, exactly how to remove it, exactly what tools you need. The mystery evaporated. The process became democratized. This created a paradox for Mercury. More accessible information meant more successful upgrades, but it also meant more unqualified attempts. More engines damaged by owners who watched one video and assumed they understood everything. Mercury's response has been silence. They don't acknowledge the upgrade publicly. They don't warn against it explicitly. They simply continue selling the parts and let the market sort itself out. The dealers, meanwhile, navigate their own quiet calculation. A dealer makes higher margins selling you the 15 horsepower model than helping you convert a 9.9. They have no financial incentive to explain the upgrade path. Most won't mention it at all. But some dealers operate in the gray space. Off the books, cash transactions. They'll perform the conversion in the back shop without paperwork, without warranty implications tied to their service records. It happens more often than the industry admits. One parts manager described the situation with unusual candor. Everyone knows the 9.9 and the 15 are the same engine. Everyone knows the conversion works. But nobody wants to be on record saying it, so we all just don't talk about it. This is the ecosystem you're stepping into when you decide to upgrade. A manufacturer who designs for modification but won't endorse it. A dealer network that profits from your uncertainty. And a community of owners who've shared everything they know. For better or worse, the information is available, the parts are available. The only thing Mercury won't give you is permission. So where does all of this leave you? You came to this video looking for an answer, a clear path forward. And by now, you have more information than most boat owners will ever encounter about what's really inside your Mercury 9.9. But information isn't the same as decision. So let's build a framework that helps you choose. Consider the upgrade if the following conditions describe your situation. You're mechanically confident, you've worked on engines before, or you have access to a trusted independent mechanic who understands outboards. You're comfortable reading parts diagrams, identifying components, and taking responsibility for the work. Your engine is out of warranty, or you've made peace with losing warranty coverage. You understand that the moment you modify the powerhead, Mercury's obligation to you ends. You accept that trade-off with clear eyes. You're not bound by external restrictions. Your boat registration doesn't depend on the 9.9 rating. Your insurance policy doesn't hinge on staying under 10 horsepower. Your local waterways don't enforce limits that would make the upgrade illegal. You've checked the regulations that apply to your situation, and you're operating within them. And finally, you understand the resale implications. A modified engine may be worth more to some buyers and less to others. Documentation matters. Transparency matters. You're prepared to own the history of what you've done. If all of that applies to you, the upgrade is a legitimate option. Thousands of owners have walked this path successfully. But consider stepping back if the picture looks different. If warranty protection matters to you, if you bought the engine new and expect years of coverage, modification eliminates that safety net entirely. One unrelated failure could become an expensive out-of-pocket repair. If you operate in a jurisdiction where the 10 horsepower threshold carries legal weight, the upgrade exposes you to consequences that extend far beyond the engine itself. Licensing violations, insurance claim denials, liability that lands on your shoulders alone. And if you're not prepared to own the outcome, good or bad, this isn't the right choice. The upgrade works when it's done carefully, with attention to detail, with respect for the engineering involved. It fails when it's rushed, when steps are skipped, when assumptions replace verification. The honest truth is this: the conversion from 9.9 to 15 horsepower is real. It works. The engines are designed for it, whether Mercury admits that publicly or not. Most owners who complete the upgrade report exactly what they hoped for. More thrust, better acceleration, a boat that finally performs the way it should. But it's not free. You're trading warranty for power, compliance for performance, certainty for risk. Those trades might be worth it. They might not. Only you can weigh what matters most in your situation. And perhaps that's the deeper lesson buried inside this story. Because this isn't really about carburetors or restrictor plates or rev limiters. It's about something more fundamental. It's about the quiet negotiation that happens every time you purchase something engineered by a corporation and owned by you. Mercury built the 9.9 knowing you might unlock it. They priced the 15 knowing some buyers would pay for permission instead. They created a system where both paths exist, one official, one unofficial, and they benefit regardless of which one you choose. Somewhere between those two options lies a question every boat owner eventually confronts. How much of your machine do you really own? The registration says it's yours, the title says it's yours. But the software, the restrictions, the warranty terms, the design choices made in a boardroom thousands of miles away, those shape what you're allowed to do with the thing you paid for. The upgrade is one answer to that question. Not the only answer, but an answer, and now the decision is yours.